That caveat out of the way, on the more definitive front, it's noted that the ancient Greeks made an effort to respect the usual burial customs of the dead after a battle, and collecting the bodies of the fallen was not uncommon. For example, following the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BC between Philip II of Macedonia and the Athenians, both sides buried their dead in accordance with the religious customs of the period. This was essentially done both out of respect for the valor of the dead, as well as to appease the gods. As for the Romans, most soldiers paid a small stipend each month to pay for funeral expenses should they fall in battle. As you might expect from this, the Romans made a conscious effort to recover the bodies of those who died, and if time allowed it, they would bury or cremate them individually. If this wasn't possible, the bodies of soldiers killed in battle would be collected and given a mass cremation or burial. In the event the bodies couldn't be recovered, a cenotaph would be erected to serve as a monument to the individual. The same cannot be said of later wars, where there seems to have been an almost callous disregard for the fallen, and looting of the dead and dying was commonplace. For example, the Bear Tapestry depicting the Battle of Hastings in 1066 shows soldiers piling up bodies of the dead and stripping them of their valuables. It's believed that following this, bodies were quickly cremated or buried in nearby mass graves. However, there are accounts of battles where thousands of bodies were simply left to the elements. For example, General Philippe Ségur states in 1812, "The ground around us was everywhere covered with fragments of helmets and cuirasses, with broken drums, gun stocks, tatters of uniforms, and standards dyed with blood. On that desolate spot lay 30,000 half-devoured corpses." It should also be noted here that beyond any possessions the bodies may have had on them before being stripped, the bodies themselves were also of value. For example, human scavengers would come through and rob the dead of their teeth, which would then be used to make dentures. Remains of soldiers were also sometimes collected for use in souvenirs of major battles. For example, poet Eaton Stannard Barrett wrote, "I know one honest gentleman who brought home a real Waterloo thumb, nail and all, which he preserves in a bottle of gin." Moving across the pond and to slightly more recent history, markedly more respect was shown for the dead during the American Civil War, where teams of soldiers were tasked with burying the dead of both sides in simple mass graves, with great care being taken to ensure most soldiers received a proper burial.